Hi, good morning, everyone. Happy Saturday. Happy happy greetings here from Minneapolis. Today is a good day. You know, as I was preparing for my reflection this morning, and I just I got up at 6 a.m. and I already took some time to be in a solo meditation practice up in my living room, just looking out to the west, and sitting on my couch, and just enjoying this early morning time in the silence, and just taking it all in, and just grateful for the time to just be connected, start to connect intrapersonally with myself and where I'm at today, get centered for the day, and then also grateful for sharing this time that I've been sharing with all of you for over a month now, since I was inspired to start to create these virtual meditations. So just grateful, and how these creative ideas are born in us and then move into action. I understand them at some level, and then some of it is just a gorgeous mystery on how these impulses, these creative impulses for us to do something, to offer something, to bring something forward, they form in us, and they move us into action. And so I just am grateful that this time has emerged, and that we've committed to sharing this time. And my hope is that everybody that's been joining live, or has been listening to parts of, or the whole recording later on, my sincere hope is that all of us, by taking this time, are finding greater self-awareness. We're finding more creativity. We're finding more ways to, in some cases, swim upstream, to take courageous action, and it's creating more inner freedom for all of us. And we have this sense of confidence and hope that we can really lean into and really rely on as we start to forge our new way forward individually, as our families, as our communities, and really the world is going to be finding a new way. And so my hope is that we're all building each other up with that inner freedom, and we'll see the fruits of that emerge in the weeks and months ahead. I'm also was curious this morning, as I was sitting and doing my meditation, was hoping all of you are staying in your practices, whatever practices that really help you with your own self-cultivation. Whether that's meditation, or mind-body practices, or the artist practices of taking time to do the morning pages, that longhand stream of consciousness writing to help unblock all those unhelpful thoughts that get in all of our way. Taking those artist dates where you're taking time to pre-plan to go do something that fills the well of inspiration for you, and taking those artist walks, those creativity walks, where you just are holding your creative idea or creative intention, and you're just starting to move your body. And that's where creativity and exercise, that's where they start to overlap. I've been in those practices myself, and it has been, I must say, it has been a month of tremendous exponential personal growth. Exponential. It's like, I've always committed to my self-cultivation and personal growth. That's just been my way for many, many years. Probably 20 years. I've committed that every week I will learn something, I will grow in some way. And with this extra time, that 10% of time that I was using for personal growth and self-development, all of a sudden in this extra space of being sheltered in place, that it was just like one of those exponential curves. I just created structure. I have a detailed plan in my Google Calendar of what I'm doing when I'm doing it, and creating my own internal structure. So that's my hope for all of us, is that we're finding really amazing ways to connect in ways that we weren't connecting before with others, and we're taking this time for this maybe once in our lifetime. This might be once in our lifetime where there's this much space for personal growth and renewal, it will come to a completion. And the question I asked myself is, just the other day, was, how did I use this time? How did I use this time? Did I use this time wisely? And as I was writing out that reflection, I asked myself that, and I said, yeah, I have used this time very wisely. I have no regrets, and I feel like I have taken the extra time to relax. I've taken the extra time to grow. I've taken the extra time to connect with others, connect with my family, and forging new ways going forward, not just to go settle back into the old way. And so that's my hope, and my question for all of you is, have you used this time wisely? Have you grown in the ways that you want to grow? Have you used this time to readjust the course and be more on your authentic path, more on purpose, more aligned with your core values and what you're all about? So you can take that forward into a more socially connected world in the next month, or whatever it is that your area of profession or your area of life starts to be opened up and socially reconnected. So yeah, I think about that. I think it's an important question to orient us to what really matters, and see the opportunity for sure. So today, this is my last reflection on this human freedom of independent will, and I've shared reflections on how do we do that mentally through the project planning process, thinking of our creativity and using the traditional principles of project planning to mentally map it out in our mind. Talked yesterday about how we exercise our independent will with our language, how we initiate creative endeavors into the world through speaking. That's very unique, and it's uniquely human. I mean, no other creature on this planet speaks a possibility and creates a reality for themselves, speaks a declaration like that. And so our language, using our language as a creative force and understanding how that happens, I think has been really powerful for me. And I hope it has opened up some insights for some of you who have been listening and in this virtual circle. The last thing I wanted to share here was, how do we exercise our independent will through our body? And, this is maybe a little bit more of an esoteric conversation. And I mean, it's kind of maybe both. Maybe it's esoteric because we don't really talk about that as much. Our culture, at least from my experiences, can be very conceptual, and we're not often talking about the body and bringing the body into the relevance into our social situations. And so I wanted just to share some reflections because, it's interesting. Years ago, when I first started my study in somatics, there was the teacher at the time said, and this might have been one of my principal teachers, Richard Strozzi. He said, we live our lives out in bodies, and at the time I was 31, and I was kind of pondering that, like, what does that mean? And what I came to realize of what that means is that we take action, through this body that we inhabit, and our consciousness, our soul inhabits, and so we can't take an action separate from our body. And so that very simple, yet often esoteric, or only a few people really thinking about that, is a profound statement. And that if we live our lives out in bodies, how are we attending to a body and creating a body that can take actions that is communicating and aligned with our highest intention? So think about that for a moment. There's the idea you have in your head, there's the intention and what you're hoping for, what you can see, the creative image of what you want to bring in. And the question is the body is your body communicating that intention to the level that you want it to communicate that? And sometimes, depending on our practices, we have wonderful intentions and visions, but our body does not communicate the truth of those visions and those intentions in a coherent or in an aligned way. In other words, there can be a disconnect between what our body's saying and what is in our imagination, in our hearts, what we really care about. And so that really brings the conversation of creating a body, or we could say creating non-verbals that are really comporting out to others the true message that's inside of us. And so I started to reflect on, why this made so much sense to me, when I first learned this years ago. And I realized, I come from a tradition at a very early age of the bodily arts. My interest since I was a very young boy has always been into physical fitness and challenging myself physically. I remember when I was a kid, I would get all of my neighborhood friends together and I would create obstacle courses for them at the local elementary school, and I would develop all these physical challenges for them. I guess my 10-year-old version of the Ninja Warrior Challenge, the American Ninja Warrior Challenge. I think that's the best way to describe it. And I'd put these obstacles together. I'd time myself. I'd time them, and I didn't know it at the time, but I was really learning how to gain mastery with my body is what I was learning to do. I had this interest. I had this bodily orientation, and that led me to eventually to study the grappling arts, and the grappling art that I can't even say I chose, that a coach, a mentor, saw potential in me, was wrestling. I was a gymnast. I was an avid gymnast at the time, and the wrestling coach at my high school started to develop a relationship with him, and in strength and conditioning class. And one day he just said to me, he said, you should come out for wrestling. You should come out for wrestling. I think you're a gymnast. You're strong and flexible and good timing, good balance. You'd make a good wrestler. And for me, that was the first time somebody from the outside saw something in me that I could not see for myself. I mean, wrestling was not on the radar. That was not where my path was. At least that's where it was not my intention. And so, this was the first time in my young life that somebody saw something in me that I could not see for myself, piqued my curiosity, and invited me into this whole nother world, and to challenge myself and see if there was, I had some talent here. And so I did. I began to, I took the first practice, and it turned out I loved it. And what it taught me, even more than the other sports I was in, gymnastics, pole vaulting, those were all wonderful sports that taught me a lot of body control and timing and flexibility and strength. They taught me a lot. They taught me how to perform under pressure, under that emotional pressure, how to work on centering myself. Wrestling was very unique because it was very fluid. The other sports I had chosen were, of the gymnastics, I had a routine, and I had more choice and control. The equipment wasn't going to really change. It was really how I was going to control my body with a piece of equipment that was essentially neutral, and just make those adjustments. When I started studying the grappling arts with wrestling, that changed things, because now I had this, I had developed these skills, and I had developed this body awareness, but what I was facing, my opponent, was ever changing, and I had to continually adapt to whatever their reaction was. Unlike these other sports where the equipment was neutral, or what was providing the resistance was neutral, my opponent was ever changing. And this was, quite honestly, when I first stepped out on the mat for the first time, with all the lights and me and this other wrestler, this other opponent. I still remember what that felt like, and it was the most nerve-wracking experience of my life. Talk about a flood or a potpourri of sensations, emotions, thoughts. And I remember I stepped onto the mat, I heard the whistle blow, and all I remember were a bunch of flashes of arms and legs, and it's kind of funny thinking back now, but somehow I heard the whistle blow, and I had won. And I had no idea how that happened. And so that was my first experience with body control, with something that was with an opponent who represented a form of resistance that was ever changing. And that's a great metaphor for life, that we have our intentions, our plans, our visions, and we enter into life in whatever area it is, and it's constantly changing. And we have the plan, but it's this openness, this fluidity that we can adapt to what the situation offers us. And there's creativity in that, is what I learned. And so that's, like I said, a beautiful metaphor. It really taught me how to be in the moment, to create in the moment, to have training, to have a plan, and to be open to what the moment offers is what I noticed. And with regard to independent will, there's that was the first time in wrestling when I was, facing my opponent. I don't know, for those of you that don't really know how wrestling is set up, you're standing face to face with your opponent, and you're usually tying up, their arms on your arms, and that's how the match starts. What you're feeling in is there's this feeling into your opponent, and you're trying to sense where there's an opportunity. This is all at the level of it's all at the level of instinct and intuition. And when you feel that there's an opening, that your body through training will take that opportunity, will enter into what's in wrestling is called a takedown. And that moment when you feel that opening and you commit to that action to enter in for that takedown, that's that moment where to me that's the felt sense of exercising. Was the first time I felt that felt sense of exercising my independent will, like committing to a movement, and there had to be a full commitment and an openness to whatever response or reaction that the opponent offered in response. And at first, this was disconcerting, because I didn't, unlike gymnastics and pole vaulting, it was so unpredictable. Where was my ability to have choice here? And what I realized was my choice came in my training, in other words, my practices, how hard I trained. I trained my instincts and my intuition in the wrestling room, and it was also my openness and my creativity in the moment. That I had a number of different options that I had practiced that were available to me, and I could leverage in the moment depending on how my opponent responded. Even more so that in that moment of commitment, of entering in, that the way they responded, I might be able to create a move that was a blend of two other moves in that moment. And that's what started to make it interesting to me, and started to give me courage to enter in with commitment, knowing I couldn't possibly know their response, but my confidence came from my ability to adapt and create in the moment on that wrestling mat. So that was where I started to. It gave me courage to commit more and more and enter in and keep entering in on a physical and bodily level. And I think that is a great metaphor for independent will with regard to entering in to anything in life, entering into a new business, entering into a new relationship, entering into whatever it is that we're entering into that we can't possibly know how it's going to go. And can we develop the confidence that to commit fully, and the openness, and have the confidence that we have a number of different options to react creatively to the situation to produce satisfaction or success. And so that was that first time where I started to exercise that quality at a instinct and intuition level in my life. Of course, I didn't have all this language, this coaching language, and to describe what I was experiencing. And now, in reflection, having that language, it's even more satisfying to be able to have had the experience, to have felt it, but be able to articulate it in my own mind, as well as share the experience. So, and often that's the way it is for me, is I will have an experience, and then later I will have the language to fully understand it and complete the experience. And so I guess the next thing moving forward is, that was the first grappling art or bodily art I studied. The second one later on in life was the martial art of Aikido, which I still have a strong interest in and still practice to this day. And this was a beautiful blend for me, because it really tied in a lot of the skills from the grappling art of wrestling with a lot of the balance and the rolling and the flipping of gymnastics. And I think I've shared a little bit about the martial art of Aikido. It's a beautiful martial art. It's Japanese martial art, which really its main purpose is to transform conflict into harmony, so that when on the martial level, if there is an attack, a sincere attack, there's a way in which we can enter into that attack, keep ourselves safe, blend with that attack, and neutralize that attack, so that we are not harmed and we don't harm the attacker. And really, its aim is to create harmony versus traditional competition, where there's a winner and a loser. So that was a beautiful art, and in that art, that was a further deepening of that, I guess that rudimentary or that embryonic awareness of entering in those wrestling takedowns. In Aikido, they actually had a name for it, that moment where we enter into and we commit fully. There's a Aikido term, Japanese term, irimi, which is this moment of commitment and courage to enter in with full commitment into the heart of the attack, and transform that attack, and create union and tie into your opponent. And so that was it was almost like an evolution of understanding for me of all those experiences on the wrestling mat, a decade or more before, is I finally could understand and have language for this felt sense of entering in, and then it really deepened it, and then provided a metaphor for life, of how can I enter into situations that are unknown and have the confidence in myself to take the action, and the confidence in my ability to adapt and create, and to create with the situation, versus winning with the situation. And so for me, these days, those lessons in the bodily arts have become wonderful metaphors for exercising this human freedom of independent will, and with the aim of relationship and blending and creating something versus just trying to win the match. Even when I'm in a competition based situation, because there are times where we are competing, and we do enter into situations, even then my orientation, the narrative that I hold is that as I'm competing, if I am competing, that I really see it as a sharpening of each other. That the competition comes from the Latin, which means to, I'll paraphrase this, it means to conspire together. The notion is every time you meet your opponent, they, about around 50% of the time they're going to win, 55% of the time you're going to win if you're evenly matched, that they are, through competing, they are refining you, showing you where your weaknesses are, where your strengths are, and you're doing the same thing for them through the competition. And ideally, every time you meet, that level of performance keeps spiraling upward. It gets better and better, even though, about half the time you're going to lose, half the time you're going to win. You're both going to be better for the relationship. And so I even bring that, that creative and mutually beneficial mindset from Aikido into moments where I'm choosing to be in traditional competition. Is my hope is, whether I win or I lose, that we're both better for the relationship, for coming together and stepping on the mat, whatever mat that is, the business mat, the sales and marketing mat, whatever it is, that there's a mutuality to it. So independent will, it was kind of a circuitous way to talk about bodily arts and how they've informed giving me the courage to enter into unknown situations that are constantly changing. So I hope that those reflections are they're inspirational, or they open something in some way. As I share it and I just knit back those memories, there's a clarity in me in the sharing. So I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful to share. So I guess that's the question as we finish up this conversation on independent will, is what do we need to do, and what are the practices that we can be in order to develop the confidence to enter into unknown situations where the situation itself is ever changing. What are those practices and relationships that we need to form in order to do that consistently, and to have the self-efficacy and the confidence to continue to enter in, and in some cases to swim upstream, to do opposite or something different than what the crowd is doing. We tie into our authenticity. We say, this is truly me. I know that 80% of the people are doing this, and it would be very easy to just follow the crowd, follow the herd. And I feel strongly about this, and I really see something here that, and I trust this. I trust this gut intuition. I trust my experience, and to sometimes have the courage to enter in and swim upstream, and sometimes maybe do something where you're doing it solo, and not just for your benefit, but perhaps in you taking that courageous action and exercising your independent will, trusting your gut, perhaps you're going to provide more opportunity and more safety for the rest of the group as they see you succeed. And so just some things to think about around the cultivation of our independent will, having the courage to take a stand, to swim upstream, and to enter in. So with that, let's begin to prepare ourselves for our meditation and contemplation time together this morning. Just take a moment to do a mood check. So just notice your mood. As I feel into my mood right now, I feel eager. Feel the sensation, the most dominant sensation that you feel right now. I feel warm. And even as I share that mood and those emotions, my memory goes back to that earlier story I shared on that first wrestling match, where it was just a potpourri of emotions, sensations, and flashes of images. And I'm just becoming aware of, with having language and practice, that these are no longer mysterious experiences. There's a way that I can understand them, take them in, learn from them, take them in as information. And let's begin by relaxing our eyes and jaw. Relax your chin. Softening our neck, our area of voice. And bring shoulders up, clench your fists. And shoulders up. Relaxing your diaphragm, relaxing your belly, softening your hips and your pelvis. You can even do the contract relax of your shoulders with your hips. You can pull your hip muscles, contract them up and in, and then release, contract up and in, and release. Relaxing our thighs and knees, calves and shins, feet and toes. And let's center, let's first become aware of our length. Notice what your length is right now from top to bottom. Notice if you feel tall or you feel compressed. Feel into your width from left to right. Notice if you feel narrow or if you feel wide. Again, we're meeting those awarenesses without judgment, without attachment, and without resistance. We're just becoming aware, becoming present. Feeling into your depth from front to back. Notice if you're forward, you're ahead. Notice if you're back. Or if you feel centered right now. Just noticing there. Then let's center in our length. So let's center first in our length. So centering from top to bottom. We're straightening and we're settling at the same time. Bringing imagery here in imagining our vertical line as a line, a bridge between heaven and earth, connecting our spirituality with our physicality. And from this somatic body that we can feel from the inside out, We can have a spiritual vision of what's possible in our lives, in our communities, in our world. We can have a spiritual vision, and at the same time feel our feet planted firmly on the earth, and we can take actions that are in line with bringing that vision into reality. Take a moment to feel into that. What's possible there when you're connected in your vertical line? Your spirituality with your practicality. What happens when they come together? They become one. Let's take a deep breath in through the crown of your head. Pull that breath through with your imagination, your attention. Pull that breath through, exhale out through your feet and hands. And then reverse that. Take a deep breath in through your feet and hands. Pull that breath through, exhale out through the crown of your head. Take a moment to center in your width. In your length. Feeling that vertical line. And feeling yourself as a bridge. And let's bring our attention to our somatic width from left to right. Wherever you were when we did that awareness practice, just meeting that again without resistance, attachment, or judgment. And traditionally we've been starting with bringing our attention to ourselves and extending outward. Let's reverse that today. So let's start outward and then come back and bring attention to ourselves. Remember, our width is our balance between self and others. So start by extending our arms out to just symbolize this extending out to others on this horizontal plane. So extending out, our width is really relational, our relationship to the environment. So extending out to nature, extending out to that beautiful tree out there, including nature, including the four-leggeds, the animals. And on that relational plane, we can extend out, even include somebody that is an enemy of ours, or an opponent, someone who hurt us, someone who betrayed us. And just extending for this moment, see if you can just extend out some love and compassion to them. They're a human being with strengths and weaknesses. Hopes, like you, concerns. And extending out and including somebody that isn't here, but you can just imagine them here, that's a friend or an ally of yours. Just extending out, imagine they're in front of you or to the left or to the right of you. And then extending out in our width with our imagination. I'm just imagining all of you. So I'm imagining Henrietta and Kathy and Darlene and Elizabeth and Troy and Joe and Ryan and Jamie. Just using my imagination, imagining we're all here in a circle. And even with that power of imagination, I can create the felt sense that you are here, even though you're not. I can feel it in my imagination. So see if you can allow yourself that freedom to imagine that way. And then let's bring our arms in. And bring our attention to ourselves, including ourselves into width. And as we feel in here, see if you can just feel your left hand on your chest, your right hand on your belly. You imagine this body posture as a self-embrace, reminding you to take care of yourself, cultivate yourself, develop yourself spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically. Feel the boundaries of your skin. See if you can feel into the sensation on the surface of your skin. See if you can feel the sensation of your clothes touching your skin. That takes this idea, this concept of having personal boundaries, and it grounds it in a bodily experience. And just take a moment to breathe into that. Let's take a deep breath in from our left side. Pull that breath through the center of your body. Exhale out your right. And then take a deep breath in from your right side. Pull that breath through with your attention and your imagination. Exhale out through your left side. And just finding that felt sense of a balance in your somatic width. Balanced between self and others. The capacity to take care of self and attend to the needs and concerns of others, of both hand. Relaxing your arms down. And let's center again in our somatic depth. So leaning forward a bit, imagining the space in front of you as your future. Leaning back and imagining the space behind you as your history, where you've been, all the experiences that have shaped you. Start with our back body, so just feeling our back here and feeling into our back. We can feel our experiences, the memories of all of our experiences that have shaped our beliefs and our character, given us wisdom. We can feel our friends and family and teachers at our back. So for me, with my imagery right now, as I'm feeling into my back and imagining that as my history, and I'm seeing all of you on this live post, I'm imagining experiences I've had with each and every one of you. So as I see Darlene, I'm imagining moments with Darlene, and with Henry and Kathy, I'm remembering, recalling those experiences, and with Elizabeth, and with Troy. I'm remembering Troy was one of my first teachers when I was a brand new trainer. So I'm remembering meeting in his classroom at that hotel back in 2001. So I'm remembering that. I'm feeling that at my back. And Molly, conversations with Molly. And I'm remembering times with Joe when I presented with Pivy at New Hope. So I'm remembering that. I'm remembering times with Ryan and Yamana body rolling, and times I've shared just conversations with him, and I'm remembering times with Jamie and conversations with Jamie. So we can feel that at our back if we allow ourselves to. And it can give us confidence, something to lean into, something that supports us, gives us confidence to enter into unknown situations because we have this strength at our back. And then starting to bring our attention to the space in front of us, imagining what's our vision for the future, starting with our vision for today. Can we co-create the day? Can it be an inspired day where we do things that are beyond our habitual ways? What's our vision for our profession, for our family? Imagining that. Tying into our longings and yearnings for personal growth. Who are we becoming? What is it time to set? What part of our personality is it time to set down that is no longer useful? And what can we develop in ourselves that is going to lead us forward? So let's center ourselves here on a physiological level. So we're centering ourselves. So the weight of our body is down through our bones, through our skeletal system. I can feel my past, the wisdom of my experience at my back, supporting me. And I am connected to where I'm headed in the future, what's possible, like a compass guiding me. And we're collecting all our attention, all our presence into this moment, into the present moment, which is the only moment that ever really is. And then take your right hand, placing it below your navel here, allowing that felt sense of your hand on your belly to help you move out of the thinking self into the feeling self. Now let's take 3 deep breaths here. So a deep breath into our center. Second breath, a deep breath into our felt sense of purpose. And a third breath, let's take a deep breath into the mystery, all that which is beyond our knowing, beyond our rational thinking. I invite you to close your eyes as we begin to enter into our meditation today. As you enter into that inner space, set your intention. Remind yourself, for the sake of what that you're doing this practice. My body, you are an animal whose appropriate behavior is concentration and discipline. An effort of an athlete, of a saint, and of a yogi. Well trained, you will become for me a gate through which I leave myself, and a gate through which I enter myself. A plumb line to the center of the earth, and a cosmic ship to Jupiter. My body, you are an animal for whom ambition is right. Splendid possibilities are open to us. My body, you are an animal whose appropriate behavior is concentration and discipline. An effort of an athlete, of a saint, and of a yogi. Well trained, you will become for me a gate through which I leave myself, and a gate through which I enter myself. A plumb line to the center of the earth, and a cosmic ship to Jupiter. My body, you are an animal for whom ambition is right. Splendid possibilities are open to us. And as we close our practice today, remind yourself again, for the sake of what? And then on your next exhale, slowly begin to move your arms and legs. And then very gently and very slowly, begin to open your eyes and let the outside world come back in again. Notice your mood right now, and notice if that's shifted since the beginning of our time together. And become attuned to any creative impulses or images for the day or the week that are floating through your imagination right now. And become aware of the most dominant sensation that you're feeling in your body. Right now I feel coolness, gone from a warmth to a coolness. And becoming curious about how that information, that sensory information, that emotional information can inform your thinking and your actions for the day. So I want to thank you all for sharing the time this morning, this virtual circle that we're creating around self-awareness and the cultivation of our human freedoms, of self-awareness, of creative imagination, of independent will, and our conscience. And so today is really a completion for me on sharing around independent will. And tomorrow I'm inspired to just start to transition to reflections on conscience and the cultivation of our conscience. Another way to say that is our sense of right and wrong, and that is a compass for the actions we take and how we conduct ourselves. And so I'm curious and I'm excited to share those reflections around how do we develop this capacity and this ongoing sense of shaping our mind and our character to reflect universal principles that produce sustained happiness and satisfaction and life in our own experience, as well as bring that same level of integrity and life and support to the communities in which we all live. So again, thank you for the time. Blessings on your day, and I'll see you tomorrow at 7 a.m. Bye for now.